Hello, in this video we are going to explore a data type in the R programming language called a data frame. The data frame is sort of the workhorse of R and will be used in a lot of different applications, specifically developing predictive models. For this lecture, we're going to utilize one of the data sets that come with R. In this case, it's the IRIS data set. So if you type in, just loading in the R programming language, you have access to many data sets, one of which is IRIS. Now, later on, you can load in your own data, but for exploration and learning, you can use these. These are great tools for that. So if I just type in IRIS, you can see here that there's 150 different irises, and this has their sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width, and also the species of iris. There's setosa, there's versicolor, and there's the virginica, and there's 50 of each of these. It's a very famous data set. Now, what we're going to do is, it's usually a good idea before you start messing around with your data to make a copy of it. So I'm going to make a copy of this data set. So I'm going to say df equals iris. And when I do that, I've now made a copy of the iris data set, and I've created the copy is now called df. Now df is a convention. You can name this thing anything you want. If I type in head df, this is going to print the first 6 records. And of course, tail df will print the last 6 records. Now, I can name this thing anything I want. I could call it Fred. Fred is equal to iris. And I can do. You can see I've got the first 6 records. And if I type in Fred, it gives me all 150 of them. The use of df is just a convention that is widely used when you're creating a data frame that you're going to be working with. A lot of people will just use df, lowercase df. But again, you can use anything you want. But again, when you're going to be exploring data and working with it, it's nice to make a copy of it so that you don't mess up your data set. If you're doing something, you load in a data set to build a predictive model, one of the first things you'll usually do is make a copy of it. But we're not going to go into that right now. We're just going to work with df right now. So if I do head df, you can see we have the first, and I can do more than that. I can do head, well, let's do 15. There, we got the first 15 records. So let's see what we can do with the iris data set. Now, the first thing you usually will do is you'll run the str command, and that's going to give us the structure of the data set. So watch this. So we're going to do this. We're going to do str df. And that tells us that we have the structure of this data frame. There's 150 observations, and it has 5 variables. There's the sepal length, the sepal width, the petal length, the petal width, and the species. The species is a factor. So in other words, this has 3 levels. It has the setosa, the versicolor, and there's also a virginica, but it just gives you the first few records. So this is what we're going to work with. Now, what if we want to just look at one specific thing in the data frame, like one of the specific records? Well, the way you do that is with the $sign. So if I do data frame, and then I do $sign, let me add a few lines here. Data frame, $sign, and let's say we look at the first guy up here. The the sepal length. Let's look at that guy. So if I do data frame $, and then I do sepal length, that's going to give us all of the sepal length for all 150 of the flowers. So that's how we can access a column of data from the data frame. So now let's see what other things we can do. Well, one thing you can do is you can make copies of the columns. So let's take a look at the species column, data frame $, species. And this gives me all 150 of the flowers. Now, what if I want to make a copy of that? Well, it's real easy to do. Let's say data frame $, and I'm going to give it a new name. I'm going to call this thing new, and it's going to equal data frame $, species. Now, if I do head df, you can see now we've got a new column right here. It's an exact copy of the species there. So that's how we can create a new column. Now, if you don't want a column, the way you delete it, and everything I'm showing you here, R is a very versatile language. There's many different techniques and many different things that you can do in the R language to accomplish the same function. I'm showing you some of the easy ways to do it. There are certainly more efficient ways, but if you are new to R, it's better to just stick to the basics. So here is a way to get rid of a column. So we've got this new here. Let's say we don't want it anymore. How would you get rid of it? Well, the way you get rid of it is you do data frame $, new. So that's this guy right here. And we are going to equals, and then capital N-U-L-L, null. And that is going to get rid of that. So if I do head df, you can see it's gone now. So that's the way you can get rid of the column that you don't want. You can also do math with this as well. So I could do something like data frame $, ratio. Let's do petal ratio. Petal dot ratio. And we're going to say that that's going to equal the ratio of the petal, data frame $, petal length divided by data frame $, petal dot width. So we're going to basically take this column and divide by this column. So this is going to do this for all 150 of the columns here. So let's do that. So if I do head df, you can see now that we have the ratio of the length divided by the width is 7. So in other words, the petal length is going to be, for the setosa flowers, is going to be 7 times larger than the width of the petal. So you can, create, so if I just did, let's just do df, you can see it's got it all for all of them. So that's a way you can create a new column. And you could do really lots of different types of math with this. So let's get rid of the ratio here. So again, if we want to get rid of this thing, data frame $, what did we name that thing? Petal ratio. Structure df. It's called petal ratio. So we could do the data frame $, petal.ratio is equal to null. And if I do structure data frame, see, it's gone. Incidentally, another thing you can do if you don't want to do structure, you can also do summary. So if I do summary, summary df, this will give me a summary of the data. Let's make this larger and try that again. Summary data frame. You can see here that we have all 5 variables here, and you can see that we have the sepal length, and we have the minimum value, we've got the maximum value, we've got the mean, the median, the first quartile, and the third quartile. So you can do, you can take a look at all of the variables here, and you can see also that we have the species. We have a Setosa, we have 50 of those, we've got 50 versicolor and 50 virginica. So this is a way that you can look at a summary of the data. Now, you can also see if there's any missing values. Now, there's nothing missing in this data set, so there's no missing values that need to be fixed. But if you do have any missing values, that's the time that this is the time that you're going to fix those things. So let's take a look at one-hot encoding. So this is going to be something that sometimes you'll have variables like this: Setosa, versicolor, and virginica. So let's just print that up real fast. Data frame $, species, and you can see, let's make this small so that it's, so you can see here, up arrow key, let's run that again so we can see all of them. You can see that you've got Setosas, versicolor, and virginica. These are the 3 species of iris that we're working with. Now, if we're going to build predictive models, you can't put a character string into a mathematical formula. It doesn't work. So we're going to have to convert this into a number. And there's a lot of techniques to do this, one of which is called one-hot encoding. And the way you do that is we're going to just simply say true or false. Is this variable equal to, let's say, a Setosa? True or false? Is it a versicolor? True or false? Is it a virginica? So you create a flag variable for all of them. So let's do that real fast, and it's easier to understand once you do this. So let's create a flag for the Setosa here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say data frame $, and we're going to call the variable flag.Setosa. And then we're going to say it's going to equal data frame $ species, that's this guy up here. If it's equal, 2 equal signs here, to the word Setosa, it's going to be true, otherwise it's going to be false. So let's do that. And now let's do head data frame. And you can see now we've got a new column that says true. And if we did tail data frame, these are the virginicas, it's all set to false, right? So at least we now have a column that says true and false. Now the problem with that is that's not a number. But how do we make that a number is that R will treat the number, or the true value, as a 1, and the false will be treated as a 0. So how do we convert that into a number? Well, the way you do that in R is if I just add a 0 to this, R is going to say, oh, wait a minute, you want me to treat this like a number. So let's do that. So instead of us saying so here we have Setosa, flag Setosa, species equals Setosa here. instead of doing that, if we just do plus 0, at this point, R is going to say, okay, he wants us to use or treat this as a number, and so it's going to convert it into a number. So if I do head data, data frame, there it is. See, it's a 1. And if I do tail towards the end of this, you can see these are virginicas. They're not setosas. So that's equal to 0. So now I could use this as a number. If I could put a 0 and a 1 into a mathematical formula, and R will be able to do, like, let's say, a regression or statistics or something. So we can do that, and you would want to do this for all of them usually. So I could do setosa. I could say flag virginica. And we could also do one, I think versicolor is the other one. Yeah, versicolor. Let's copy that guy. Well, let's first, let's copy that. And let's go over here, up arrow key. And let's paste it in. Let's see if we can paste. Nope, it's not gonna let us. Versicolor. Let's see if that works. Oops. Versicolor. And so in theory, if I do df, I should have lots of, let's see if I can get them all to fit on one thing. df. There it is. So look at this. I'm printing all 150 rows. I've got this, and I've got these flag variables here. And you can see I've got, where in its setosa, this thing is set to 1. And then all of a sudden we get to versicolor, and that's that guy there. That's set to 1. And then we get down here, and there's now Virginica, and he's set to 1. So all three of those are set. You can also create multiple variables. So the way you do that is, it's a little tricky, but it's actually easy once you see it. Let's say we want setosa or versicolor. So let's do that. So the way you do this is we're going to create this thing. It's going to be data frame, and we're going to create a new guy, and it's going to be flag. And again, I like to have a convention of, you don't have to have that dot there if you don't want it. You could just do, I like to put sometimes a dot in there or sometimes an underscore. Let's put an underscore just to keep it interesting. Flag underscore setosa underscore versicolor. So we're going to basically create a new column that is going to be true if the iris species is a setosa or a versicolor. Well, how do you do that? You just simply say iris $ species, and then you put %, in %, and then you put a little c here for, because you're going to create a list, and we're going to make a collection here of strings, and this one's going to be setosa or versicolor. So if my species is in either one of these, it's going to be set to true, and then we're going to add 0 to it to turn it into a number. So let's do that real fast. So now if I do df again, well, let's expand this a little bit. df. Look at that. Okay, so now you can see that I have a column Setosa, Virginica, Versicolor, and then we have flag Setosa or Versicolor. And see, it's 1. And you can come down here and it's suddenly it's 0 because it's neither. And right here it's a 1 because it's a Versicolor. So when it's a Setosa, it's a 1. See, Setosa, it's a 1. Or if it's a Versicolor, it's a 1. But when it's a Virginica, it's a 0. So it's a Virginica, or this is a Virginica, and it's a 0. So once you do that, once you've done your one-hot encoding, then you would do df $ species equals null. And at that point, when we do this, we can say we no longer have any strings in there. These are all numbers, and we could put this into a formula, let's say a regression or a neural network or a decision tree, and they will be able to, those tools will be able to handle this data because it's all numbers. So this is what you're going to do with a data frame. Is you're going to, this is called data wrangling, data munging, data preparation, and this is a way that you can do that. One final thing is you can create a subset of your data, and that's a very easy thing to do. And how would you do that? You would say, let me, data frame equals iris. I'm going to start over from scratch. So if I wanted to create a subset of my data so that I've only got a data set with Setosa flowers in it, the way you do that is we're going to use the subset command. And so I've just ran subset. So what you do is you're going to take df, which is this guy here, and we're going to take a subset of it, and we're going to take that subset of species equals Setosa. So we have species here, and it's going to be Setosa, and we're going to put the answer, or we're going to put the new data set into DFS for subset. Again, I could have named this anything I wanted. So if I type DFS, you're going to see that I have 50, not 150, I got 50 in there. And that 50 is only Setosa. So this is a way of taking a subset of data. So this is sort of a very brief overview of some things that we can do with data frames. And there are, of course, more things, and then there will be things that, fixing missing values, handling outliers, things of that nature. But this is the basic fundamentals. So I encourage you to work with this and try to recreate a lot of what's being done here, and to explore and to try some of your own commands to see what else you can do with this.